Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to explore the vivid imagery and the dramatic U-shaped literary arc of the book of Zephaniah. Whether you're deeply familiar with ancient texts or kind of just discovering this one today, you're going to find a fascinating architectural structure to this writing. We're looking at a narrative that takes us on a profound journey, starting at the heights of a historical royal court, plunging into the absolute depths of cosmic destruction, and ultimately rising back up to an incredibly intimate portrait of deliverance. And while this is an ancient text, its core themes of societal corruption, deep-seated apathy, and the human desire for justice are incredibly relevant to our experiences today. We're going to see how ancient writers wrestled with the exact same societal flaws that we still talk about in the modern world. Okay, let's dive into this and see how it all unfolds.
To help navigate this ancient text, we're going to follow its prophetic blueprint. We'll start with the prophet and his era, move right into the great day of wrath, examine the judgment on surrounding nations, hit the absolute bottom of the narrative in a city of oppressors, and finally ascend into purification and final restoration.
Section 1. The Prophet and His Era. Ancient texts rarely happen in a vacuum, and understanding exactly when and where these words were proclaimed gives us the essential context for everything that follows. The author actually establishes authority right out of the gate by anchoring Zephaniah's lineage back 4 generations. It traces his family tree through his father Cushi, back through Gedaliah and Amariah, all the way to Hezekiah, who was a highly prominent king of Judah. This isn't just trivial genealogy, right? It establishes a royal pedigree. He isn't some outsider yelling in the streets. He's a voice from the inner circles of the nation's elite, which makes his upcoming critique of the government incredibly bold. It places his prophetic era firmly during the reign of another king, Josiah. So we're situated in a very specific geopolitical moment, listening to an insider who is about to turn a fiercely critical eye on his own peers.
Section 2. The Great Day of Wrath.
Following that historical introduction, we basically begin our descent down that U-shaped arc. The narrative immediately plunges into this staggering, ominous vision of global uncreation. Zephaniah utilizes some seriously intense imagery to describe the total reversal of the world. If you think back to the traditional Genesis creation accounts where humans, animals, birds, and fish are meticulously brought into existence in a specific order, well, this text systematically undoes it. It sweeps them all away. And what sparks this cosmic reversal? The source targets a highly complacent society, specifically pointing to folks in Jerusalem who are like wine left on its dregs. It's such a fascinating metaphor. These are people who haven't necessarily committed some active, horrific atrocity in this specific verse. Rather, they've just grown completely and utterly apathetic. They falsely believe, as the text explicitly notes, that the Lord will do nothing, either good or bad. This sweeping destruction is a direct response to that deep-seated indifference. And honestly, that resonates powerfully even today when we think about societal apathy in the face of major systemic issues.
The author paints this great day of the Lord not merely as a local political defeat, but as a visceral, cosmic event. Just listen to the heavy, rhythmic adjectives piling up here: distress, anguish, trouble, ruin, darkness, gloom. It's poetic for sure, but it's undeniably terrifying. The text continues to describe it as a day of trumpet and battle cry against fortified cities, where the people will walk like the blind and their blood will be poured out like dust. It's a sobering picture of absolute consequence, making it remarkably clear that neither hoarded silver nor gold can offer salvation when this level of systemic judgment arrives.
Section 3. Judgment on surrounding nations.
Now the focus shifts outward, to catalog the geopolitical doom awaiting neighboring kingdoms. Zephaniah takes us on this dark tour of the region, detailing the desolate fates prophesied for the surrounding powers. We see a systematic dismantling of the entire neighborhood. To the west, Philistine cities like Gaza and Ashkelon are left entirely abandoned and ruined. Over to the east, Moab and the Ammonites are condemned to become a place of weeds and salt pits, a wasteland forever, which the text directly compares to the legendary ruined cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then, pointing straight north, the text takes aim at the absolute dominant superpower of the day, Assyria.
This builds into an incredibly poetic reversal of fortune. The supposedly untouchable Assyrian capital city of Nineveh is targeted, and it's vital to understand how absolutely terrifying the Assyrian Empire was to the ancient world. They were the unstoppable military machine of their era. The idea of Nineveh falling would have been as shocking to this audience as predicting the utter abandonment of modern-day New York or London. The text mocks Nineveh as the carefree city that lived in safety, the one that proudly said, "I am, and there is none besides me." Yet Zephaniah's vision depicts it completely hollowed out, a ruined wasteland overtaken by nature.
It's reduced to a literal lair for wild beasts where the calls of the desert owl and screech owl echo through its broken, cedar-exposed windows. It's a profound reminder within the text of the fleeting, fragile nature of even the most intimidating worldly empires.
Section 4. A City of Oppressors. Here is where the narrative arc hits rock bottom. After pointing fingers at neighboring superpowers and kind of reveling in their downfall, the prophetic voice spins around and points directly home to Jerusalem, highlighting a devastating hypocrisy. We're given a stark comparison directly from the source text. The human leaders in the city are completely corrupted. Civil officials are acting as predatory roaring lions, and rulers are described as evening wolves who consume so much they leave nothing for the morning. The religious figures are no better. Prophets are arrogant, and priests profane the very sanctuary they're supposed to protect. Now contrast that earthly corruption with the character of the deity they claim to represent. The Lord is described as righteous, doing no wrong, dispensing perfect justice morning by morning without fail. The juxtaposition is just devastating. The city's leaders are behaving as the exact predatory opposite of the flawless God they supposedly serve.
The text outlines a profound moral failure here, emphasizing how the inhabitants willfully rejected correction. She obeys no one, accepts no correction, doesn't trust, and doesn't draw near. In fact, the source notes that God thought the city would surely fear him and accept correction, but instead, they were still eager to act corruptly in all they did. This is the absolute bottom of our U-shaped story. Total desolation, total corruption, and the promise that the whole world would be consumed by the fire of jealous anger. It's a striking portrait of willful ignorance. It really makes you ask the rhetorical question, how often do societies today recognize their own systemic flaws, but remain, as the text says, eager to act corruptly anyway? It's a pretty timeless human condition.
Section 5. Purification and Final Restoration.
Just when the text seems entirely consumed by darkness and final judgment, the message executes this dramatic ascent. The theological weight of this entire book rests on this crucial pivot, the concept of the remnant. After the purging of the proud and the haughty, what is actually left behind? Well, the text explicitly states that God will leave within the city a purified group. And what's truly fascinating is how they are defined. Survival here isn't based on military might, immense wealth, or even those royal bloodlines we talked about at the beginning of this explainer. They're defined entirely by their humility. They are the meek and humble who trust in the name of the Lord, who do no wrong and who speak no lies. The promise is that they will eat and lie down, and no one will make them afraid.
Notice how the tone of the source text completely transforms here, shifting from those urgent, terrifying warnings of cosmic uncreation to a triumphant, warm call for Jerusalem to rejoice. The storm of wrath is broken, and the sun is finally coming out. The text forcefully commands the daughter of Zion to sing, to shout aloud, and to rejoice with all her heart. The enemies have been turned back, and the punishment has been taken away. There is a massive surge of bright, joyous energy rushing back into a text that had previously been just overwhelmingly dark.
And we reach the soaring apex of this prophetic arc with this incredibly tender poetry. We started this journey with a terrifying deity sweeping away humanity, fish and birds in a day of thick darkness. Now we are presented with a deity who is intimately present, mighty to save. Instead of fierce wrath, he takes great delight in the people. Instead of the loud crash and battle cries we heard earlier, he will quiet you with his love. And in a beautiful mirroring climax, the God who commanded his people to sing just a moment ago is now depicted as rejoicing over them with singing. You know, it is incredibly rare and surprising in ancient Near Eastern literature to have a deity depicted as singing a joyful, loving song over their people. It's a massive contrast to the typical angry warrior god imagery of the time. He promises to rescue the lame, gather the scattered, and finally bring them home.
As we wrap up this explainer, consider how this profound U-shaped progression reshapes our view of the complexity embedded in these texts. It's not just a randomized list of ancient grievances. It's a masterfully crafted journey. It forces us to face the absolute darkest consequences of human corruption and apathy, only to reveal that the ultimate goal of this intense purification isn't endless destruction at all. It's a joyful, love-filled restoration. So how does experiencing this structural journey, from ultimate cosmic ruin to intimate, joyous redemption, change your perspective on ancient prophetic literature? Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the fascinating world of Zephaniah. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.